Captain Elena Torres had always been a force of nature, a woman whose presence filled a room before she even spoke. With her sharp wit, unyielding determination, and a knack for defying expectations, she'd risen to the ranks of the Air Force to become one of the most skilled pilots in her squadron. Her call sign, Viper, wasn't just a nickname, it was a warning. She flew with precision, grace, and a daring edge that made her a legend among her peers. But legends, as Elena would soon learn, often attract envy and resistance. It was a blistering summer day at Fort Sterling, a sprawling military base nestled in the arid plains of the American Southwest. The base was a hive of activity, with fighter jets roaring overhead and the constant hum of machinery. Elena, at 32, was one of the few women in the elite 27 Fighter Squadron, a unit known for its cutting-edge Rafale jets, sleek, French-designed machines capable of jaw-dropping maneuvers. She'd earned her place through years of grit, outflying men twice her size and silencing doubters with every perfect landing. But not everyone was a fan. Colonel Harold Grayson, the base's commanding officer, was a man stuck in the past. He believed women had no place in combat roles, let alone piloting multi-million-dollar jets. His disdain for Elena was no secret. He'd nitpick her reports, question her decisions, and undermine her in front of the squadron. To him, she was an anomaly, a glitch in his orderly world, and he was determined to fix it. The trouble began during a routine inspection. Elena stood tall in her flight suit, her dark hair pulled back in a tight bun, her eyes scanning the horizon as Grayson approached with his entourage of clipboard-wielding officers. The inspection was standard, checking uniforms, equipment, and readiness. But when Grayson stopped in front of Elena, his eyes narrowed. "Captain Torres," he said, his voice dripping with condescension, "your uniform is out of regulation. That patch on your sleeve, it's unauthorized. Remove it, now." The patch in question was a small, embroidered Viper, a gift from her crew chief after her first solo Rafale flight. It was a symbol of her identity, her pride. The squadron had no issue with it. In fact, they loved it. But Grayson saw it as a chance to assert his authority. Elena's jaw tightened. "Sir, with all due respect, this patch was approved by my immediate supervisor. It's a unit tradition." Grayson's face reddened. "I don't care about your traditions, Captain. I gave you an order. Remove it, or I'll have you grounded." The air grew thick with tension. The other pilots, standing nearby, exchanged uneasy glances. Elena's hands clenched into fists, but she held her ground. "Sir, grounding me over a patch seems excessive. I'm one of your best pilots." "Best?" Grayson scoffed. "You're a distraction. Take off that uniform, or you're off my flight line." The words hit like a missile. Take off her uniform? It wasn't just about the patch. It was a challenge to her place, her identity, her right to be there. The squadron watched, waiting for her response. Elena's eyes burned with defiance, but she knew arguing further would only give Grayson what he wanted, an excuse to sideline her. "Yes, sir," she said through gritted teeth, saluting sharply before turning on her heel. As she walked away, the Viper patch glinted in the sun, a quiet rebellion sewn into her sleeve. But Elena Torres wasn't one to back down. If Grayson thought he could humiliate her into submission, he was about to learn just how wrong he was. That night, in the dim glow of the hangar, Elena sat with her crew chief, Senior Airman Marcus Gear Lopez. Gear was a wiry, quick-talking mechanic with a knack for fixing anything, and a loyalty to Elena that ran deeper than rank. The two had been through countless missions together, and he knew the fire in her eyes better than anyone. "They can't do this to you, Viper," Gear said, tossing a wrench into his toolbox. "Grayson's got out for you. That patch ain't the issue, it's you being you. Too good, too bold, too everything." Elena leaned against the Rafale, her fingers tracing the sleek curve of its wing. The jet was her sanctuary, a machine that didn't care about her gender or Grayson's grudges. In the cockpit, she was untouchable. "He wants me to play small, Gear. I don't do small." Gear grinned. "So what's the plan? You gonna let him win?" Elena's lips curved into a dangerous smile. "Oh, I've got a plan. Grayson wants me out of my uniform? Fine, but he's gonna see me fly. The next morning, the base was abuzz with preparations for a training exercise. The 27th Squadron was set to demonstrate their aerial prowess for a visiting delegation of high-ranking officials. It was a big deal. Perfect execution could mean promotions, funding, prestige. Grayson was in his element, barking orders and ensuring every detail was flawless. Elena, however, was nowhere to be seen. As the delegation gathered on the tarmac, shielded by a canopy from the relentless sun, Grayson gave a polished speech about the squadron's discipline and readiness. The pilots stood in formation, their uniforms crisp, their faces stoic. But whispers rippled through the ranks. Where was Viper? High above, a faint roar grew louder. Heads turned skyward as a Rafale jet streaked into view, its silver fuselage catching the light like a comet. The jet moved with impossible grace, twisting through a series of barrel rolls and tight loops that left the crowd gasping. It was a display of skill so daring, so precise, that it bordered on art. Grayson's face turned ashen. He knew that jet, number 17, Elena's bird, and he knew no one else could fly like that. Inside the cockpit, Elena's heart pounded, not from fear but from exhilaration. She wasn't in her uniform. Grayson had made sure of that. Instead, she wore a plain flight suit, stripped of rank and insignia, just her and the jet. The Viper patch was tucked into her pocket, close to her heart. She pushed the Rafale to its limits, weaving to the sky like a dancer, every move a defiance of Grayson's attempt to ground her. On the ground, the delegation erupted in applause. Even Grayson's stooges couldn't hide their awe. Gear, watching from the hangar, pumped his fist, whispering, "That's my girl." But Elena wasn't done. As she brought the jet low, skimming just above the camp, she tilted the wings in a salute, not to Grayson, but to her squadron, her crew, her family. The roar of the engines drowned out everything. A thunderous declaration. I'm still here. When she finally landed, the tarmac was chaos. Pilots rushed to meet her, their cheers echoing across the base. The delegation demanded to know who the pilot was, their excitement palpable. Grayson, however, was livid. He stormed toward the jet as Elena climbed out, her face flushed with triumph. "Torres," he bellowed, "you're in direct violation of my orders. You're done here." Elena met his gaze, unflinching. "With all due respect, sir, you told me to take off my uniform." "I did. You never said I couldn't fly." The crowd went silent, waiting for Grayson's response. His mouth opened, then closed, his authority crumbling under the weight of her audacity. Before he could retort, a voice cut through the tension, a general from the delegation, his stars gleaming on his shoulders. "Colonel Grayson," the general said, stepping forward, "if this is the caliber of pilot you're hiding, I want her leading the next exercise." That was the finest display of skill I've seen in years. Grayson's face contorted, caught between rage and the need to save face. Elena stood tall, her eyes locked on his, daring him to challenge her again. The squadron rallied behind her, their loyalty unspoken but unbreakable. As the sun dipped below the horizon, casting long shadows across the base, Elena knew this was only the beginning. Grayson wouldn't let this go, and the fight for her place was far from over. But she had the sky, her jet, and a fire that no one could extinguish. What came next was anyone's guess, but one thing was certain: Viper was just getting started. The days following Elena's daring Rafale flight were electric with whispers and speculation across Fort Sterling. The base was a pressure cooker, with Colonel Grayson's authority visibly shaken, and the 27th Fighter Squadron buzzing with pride for their Viper. Elena's stunt had not only impressed the visiting delegation, but it also sparked a quiet rebellion among the younger pilots, who saw her as a symbol of pushing back against outdated rules. Yet, Elena knew the victory was temporary. Grayson was not a man to let a challenge go unanswered. In the mess hall, over trays of lukewarm coffee and standard-issue scrambled eggs, Elena's squadron mates couldn't stop talking about her flight. Lieutenant Sarah Hawken Gwynn, a wiry navigator with a quick laugh, slid into the seat across from her. "Viper, you're a legend," she said, her eyes sparkling. "The way you buzz Grayson's precious tarmac, I swear his mustache twitched so hard it almost flew off." Elena chuckled, stirring her coffee. "Yeah, well, legends don't get to rest." Grayson's probably in his office right now, plotting his revenge. He can plot all he wants, said Senior Airman Marcus Gear Lopez, joining them with a tray pile high with pancakes. You've got the whole squadron behind you. And that general? He's been asking about you. Word is, he wants you on a special project. Elena raised an eyebrow. Special project? What kind? Gear shrugged, his mouth full. Dunno. Something big. Classified, maybe. They don't tell grease monkeys like me the details. The idea of a special project intrigued Elena, but also set her on edge. Opportunities in the Air Force often came with strings, and with Grayson circling like a vulture, she'd need to watch her back. Still, the thought of a new challenge lit a spark in her. Flying was her life, but it wasn't just about the jet. It was about proving she belonged, no matter who tried to clip her wings. That afternoon, Elena was summoned to the base's command center, a sleek building lined with glass and humming with the quiet efficiency of military bureaucracy. She strode in, her plain flight suit swapped for a regulation uniform, minus the Viper patch, which still sat in her pocket like a talisman. Grayson was there, sitting at the head of a polished conference table, flanked by two officers she didn't recognize. Across from him was General Amanda Kessler, the delegation leader who'd praised Elena's flight. Her silver hair was cropped short, and her piercing gaze seemed to see right through everyone in the room. Captain Torres, General Kessler said, her voice calm but commanding. Take a seat. We have something to discuss. Elena sat, her posture ramrod straight, acutely aware of Grayson's glare boring into her. Kessler slid a folder across the table, stamped with red, classified label. Your performance yesterday was exceptional, she began. It caught the attention of some important people. We're putting together a task force for a new initiative, Project Skylance. It's a joint operation to test next-generation fighter tactics, and we need pilots who can think outside the box. You're our top pick. Elena's heart raced, but she kept her face neutral. Thank you, ma'am. What's the scope of the project? Kessler leaned forward. It's about pushing the limits of what our jets and our pilots can do. You'd be training with an international team, flying experimental maneuvers, and helping shape the future of air combat. It's high risk, high reward, and it starts in 2 weeks. Before Elena could respond, Grayson cleared his throat. With all due respect, General, Captain Torres is under my command. She's facing disciplinary action for insubordination. I'm not sure she's suited for a project of this magnitude. The room went still. Elena's jaw tightened, but she didn't flinch. Kessler's eyes flicked to Grayson, cool and unyielding. Colonel, your concerns are noted, but this decision comes from higher up. Captain Torres has proven her skill. If you're questioning her discipline, perhaps you should review the morale of your entire squadron. I hear they're quite inspired by her. Grayson's face flushed, but he said nothing. Elena felt a surge of gratitude toward Kessler, though she knew better than to let her guard down. The Air Force was a chessboard, and every move had consequences. Over the next few days, Elena threw herself into preparing for Project Skylance. She spent hours in the simulator, running through scenarios that pushed her reflexes to the limit. Gear and Hawk became her unofficial support crew, sneaking her extra time in a hangar and passing along rumors about the project. Some said it involved cutting-edge AI integration. Others whispered about hypersonic tech. Whatever it was, Elena was determined to be ready. But Grayson wasn't idle. He doubled down on his oversight, assigning Elena endless paperwork and scheduling her for the least desirable shifts. It was a petty power play, designed to wear her down. One evening, as she slogged through a stack of maintenance reports, Hawk burst into the office, her face alight with excitement. Viper, you gotta see this, she said, holding up her phone. It was a video, grainy but unmistakable, posted on a private squadron group chat. It showed Elena's Rafale streaking over the camp, the low pass that had rattled Grayson's ego. Someone had caught on their phone, and the clip was spreading like wildfire among the base's younger personnel. The comments were a mix of awe and defiance. Viper is untouchable. Grayson's gonna lose it. Keep flying, Cap. Elena's lips twitched into a smile, but her mind raced. The video was a double-edged sword. proof of her skill, but also fuel for Grayson's vendetta. "Who posted this?" she asked. Hawk shrugged. "Anonymous, but it's got thousands of views already. You're a hero out there, Viper." "Or a target," Elena muttered. She knew the attention could complicate things, especially with Project Skylance looming. If Grayson got wind of the video, he'd use it to paint her as a reckless showboat. And if it went beyond the base, it could draw scrutiny she didn't need. As night fell, Elena stood outside the hangar, staring up at the stars. The desert air was cool, and the distant roar of a jet taking off reminded her why she was here. Project Skylance was her chance to prove herself on a bigger stage, but it also meant leaving Fort Sterling and Grayson's shadow behind. Yet something told her the real fight was just beginning. The video, the project, the whispers of support, it was all building towards something bigger, something she couldn't yet see. She pulled the Viper patch from her pocket, running her thumb over its stitching. Whatever came next, she'd face it the only way she knew how. Full throttle. No regrets. The desert sky over Fort Sterling glowed a fiery orange as the sun dipped below the horizon, casting long shadows across the base. Captain Elena Torres stood on the edge of the tarmac, her boots crunching against the gravel, her mind racing. The viral video of her Rafale flyover had turned her into a symbol of resistance, but it also painted a target on her back. Colonel Grayson's silence since the delegation's visit was unnerving. Too quiet, like the calm before a storm. And Project Skylance, with its promise of cutting-edge innovation, loomed just days away, pulling Elena toward an uncertain future. In the hangar, the air was thick with the scent of jet fuel and grease. Senior Airman Marcus Gear Lopez was elbow-deep in the engine of Elena's Rafale, number 17, muttering to himself about a finicky fuel line. Lieutenant Sarah Hawk and Gwen leaned against the toolbox, scrolling through her phone, her eyes wide. "Viper, you've got to see this," she said, holding up the screen. The video of Elena's flyover had somehow leaked beyond the base's private group chat, racking up tens of thousands of views on a public aviation forum. The comments were a mix of admiration and speculation. Is this the future of the Air Force? Who's this pilot? Better CO's fuming. Elena's stomach twisted. "Who leaked it?" she asked, her voice low. Hawk shook her head. "No clue. The original post is gone, but it's spreading like wildfire. People are calling you the Viper now, like you're some kind of superhero." Gear wiped his hands on a rag and grinned. "Superhero, huh? Fits you, Cap. But Grayson's gonna have a coronary when he sees this." Elena's lips pressed into a thin line. The video was a double-edged sword. It rallied support, but also gave Grayson ammunition to paint her as a reckless maverick. Worse, it could jeopardize her spot on Project Skylance. General Kessler had made it clear the project demanded discretion, and a viral video wasn't exactly low profile. As if on cue, her radio crackled. "Captain Torres, report to Command Center immediately." The voice was clipped, unmistakably Grayson's. Gear raised an eyebrow. "Speak of the devil." Elena squared her shoulders. "Keep number 17 ready, Gear. I've got a feeling I'll need her soon." The command center was a stark contrast to the hangar's chaos. Sterile, quiet, and cold. Grayson sat behind his desk, his face a mask of controlled fury. Across from him was Major Rachel Sparks Carter, the squadron's operations officer and one of the few who'd always treated Elena fairly. Sparks gave her a subtle nod as she entered, a small gesture of solidarity. "Captain Torres," Grayson began, his voice like gravel, "you've caused quite a stir. That stunt of yours is now a public spectacle. Care to explain why a classified training exercise is circulating online?" Elena stood at attention, her expression neutral. "Sir, I didn't post a video. I wasn't aware it had gone public until today." Grayson leaned forward, his eyes narrowing. "Don't play innocent, Captain. You defied my orders, flew an unauthorized maneuver, and now you're undermining the security of this base. I'm recommending a formal inquiry. You're grounded until further notice." The words hit like a punch, but Elena didn't flinch. "Sir, with all due respect, the maneuver was within the parameters of the exercise. And if the video's a security risk, I'd suggest investigating who leaked it rather than punishing the pilot who executed a flawless demonstration. Sparks coughed, hiding a smirk. Grayson's face reddened, but before he could retort, the door opened. General Kessler strode in, her presence commanding instant silence. She held a tablet, its screen glowing with the now infamous video. "Colonel Grayson," Kessler said, her tone icy, "I've just spoken with the Pentagon. They're aware of the video, and they're not concerned about security. They're impressed. Captain Torres' flight has sparked interest in Project Skylance. They want her leading the first phase." Grayson's jaw dropped, but he recovered quickly. "General, her actions were reckless. She's a liability." Kessler raised an eyebrow. "A liability who outflew every pilot in your squadron? Colonel, your job is to nurture talent, not stifle it. Captain Torres, you're shipping out tomorrow for Skylance's initial briefing in Nevada. Pack light." Elena's heart surged, but she kept her composure. "Yes, ma'am. Thank you." As she left the room, Grayson's glare followed her, but Kessler's words echoed louder. Nevada meant a fresh start, a chance to prove herself beyond Fort Sterling's politics. But it also meant leaving her squadron, her family, behind at least for now. Back at the barracks, Elena packed her duffel bag, her mind buzzing with possibilities. Project Skylance was shrouded in mystery, but rumors hinted at revolutionary tech. AI-assisted targeting, adaptive flight systems, maybe even drones that could think like pilots. Whatever it was, she was ready to dive in. But the video spread worried her. If it was gaining traction online, it could draw unwanted attention, journalists, hackers, or worse. Hawk and Gear showed up at her door, carrying a six-pack of soda and a bag of chips. "Thought you'd need a send-off," Hawk said, tossing her a can. "Nevada, huh? You're gonna crush it." Gear flopped onto her cot, cracking open a soda. "Just don't forget us little people when you're flying some fancy new jet. And keep an eye out. Grayson's not done with you." Elena nodded, popping the tab on her drink. "I know, but neither am I done with him." As they laughed and swapped stories, Elena's phone buzzed. An unknown number had sent a message, a single image of Viper coiled around a jet with the words, "The sky's yours. Keep flying." No signature, no context. Her pulse quickened. Was it a supporter, a warning, or something else entirely? Outside, the desert night was alive with the hum of jets and the distant howl of a coyote. Elena stepped onto the balcony, the Viper patch in her hand, the stars above stretching endlessly. Project Skylance was her next horizon, but the video, Grayson's grudge, and that cryptic message hinted at storms ahead. Whatever came next, Viper was ready to soar. The Nevada desert stretched endlessly before the sleek, high-security facility that housed Project Skylance headquarters. The air shimmered with heat as Captain Elena, Viper... Torres stepped off the transport plane, her duffel bag slung over her shoulder. The Viper patch, her quiet rebellion, was still tucked in her pocket, a reminder of the fight she left behind at Fort Sterling and the one waiting ahead. The viral video of her Rafale flyover had followed her like a shadow, its views now in the hundreds of thousands, sparking debates online about the Air Force's future. Elena wasn't sure whether to be flattered or alarmed, but one thing was certain. She was stepping into a world where every move would be watched. The Skylance facility was unlike anything she'd seen, a sprawling complex of glass and steel, ringed by razor wire and guarded by drones that hummed softly in the sky. Inside, the air was cool and sterile, filled with the low buzz of advanced tech. Elena was escorted to a briefing room where a dozen other pilots waited, their uniforms bearing patches from air forces across the globe. France, Japan, Australia, and more. The international scope of Skylance hit her hard. This wasn't just a project. It was a global stage. General Amanda Kessler stood at the front, a holographic display behind her projecting a sleek, unfamiliar jet design. "Welcome, Project Skylance," she began, her voice cutting through the room's tension. "You're here because you're the best. This initiative isn't just about flying. It's about redefining air combat. You'll be testing the X-9 Phantom, a prototype with adaptive AI and Neuralink controls. It learns from you, anticipates your moves, and pushes the boundaries of what a pilot can do." Elena's pulse quickened. Neuralink controls? That was sci-fi stuff, the kind of tech whispered about in hangars but never seen. The other pilots murmured, a mix of excitement and skepticism. Kessler continued, Captain Torres, you'll lead the first test flight tomorrow. Your performance at Fort Sterling proved you can handle the unexpected. Don't disappoint us. The weight of the assignment settled on Elena's shoulders, but she nodded. Yes, ma'am. Inside, her mind raced. Leading the first flight was an honor, but also meant being the guinea pig for untested tech. And with the video still circulating, she knew her every move would be scrutinized, not just by Kessler, but by the world. That night, in her temporary quarters, Elena couldn't sleep. She sat on the edge of her bunk, scrolling through her phone. The aviation forums were ablaze with theories about her flyover. Some called her a trailblazer. Others speculated she was a rogue pilot on the verge of court-martial. Then there was a mysterious message she'd received at Fort Sterling. The Viper coiled around a jet, with the words, "The sky's yours. Keep flying." No new messages had come, but the image haunted her. Was it a supporter, a rival, or something more? Her thoughts were interrupted by a knock at the door. It was Captain Hiroshi Samurai Tanaka, a Japanese pilot she'd met in the briefing. His calm demeanor and sharp eyes reminded her hawk, but there was a quiet intensity to him. Torres-san, he said, bowing slightly, I saw your video. Impressive. But you should know, someone here recognized you. They're saying you're a risk to the project. Elena's jaw tightened. Who? Hiroshi hesitated. I don't know names yet, but there's talk. Your reputation precedes you. She thanked him and closed the door, her mind spinning. Grayson's influence couldn't reach this far, could it? Or was this about the video? Stirring up doubts among her new team? Either way, she'd need to prove herself all over again. The next morning, the X-9 Phantom stood gleaming in the hangar, its sleek lines and matte black finish unlike any jet Elena had ever flown. It was smaller than a Rafale, with a cockpit that looked more like a spaceship than a fighter jet. Technicians swarmed around it, their tablets linked to the jet's AI core. Elena suited up, her plain flight suit feeling inadequate for the moment. She slipped the Viper patch into her sleeve, a small act of defiance. As she climbed into the cockpit, the neural interface hummed to life. A headset synced with her brainwaves, and the controls seemed to pulse in rhythm with her thoughts. It was eerie, exhilarating, and a little unnerving. Initiating neural link, a technician's voice crackled through her headset. Captain, think about banking left. Elena pictured it, and the jet's wings tilted slightly, responding before her hands touched the controls. Her breath caught. This was no ordinary machine. It was an extension of her. The test flight was a blur of adrenaline and precision. The X-9 climbed faster than anything she'd flown, slicing through the clouds with responsiveness that felt almost alive. She pushed it through loops, dives, and high G turns. The AI anticipated her moves and amplifying them. The other pilots watched on the ground, their telemetry feeds lighting up with data. Kessler's voice came through. Outstanding, Torres. You're setting the benchmark. But as Elena brought the jet in for a landing, something shifted. The neural link flickered, and a voice, not the technician's, whispered through her headset. The Viper strikes first. The controls froze for a split second, the jet wobbling before she regained manual control. Her heart pounded as she touched down, the landing rough but safe. Back in the hangar, the technicians were baffled. A glitch, they called it, but Elena wasn't so sure. That voice, those words, they matched the mysterious message. Someone or something was watching her, maybe even inside the X-9's AI. As she debriefed with Kessler, Elena kept the incident to herself, unsure who to trust. The general praised her performance, but her eyes lingered on Elena, as if sensing her unease. Outside, the other pilots clapped her on the back, Hiroshi giving her a nod of respect. But the whispers of doubt lingered, and the video's shadow grew longer. That night, Elena stood outside the facility, the desert stars blazing above. The Viper patch was in her hand, its threads catching the moonlight. Project Skylance was her chance to redefine what a pilot could be, but the glitch, the voice, and the mysterious message hinted at a deeper game. Was the AI compromised? Was someone targeting her? Or was Skylance itself hiding secrets? As a drone hummed overhead, its red lights blinking in the dark, Elena made a decision. She'd fly again tomorrow, push the X-9 harder, and find answers. The sky was hers, but someone or something wanted to challenge that claim. Viper wasn't backing down.